Welcome to Math Movies with Miss Feuer-Beck and Miss Veluti. Today we will be learning how to add and subtract decimals. One thing that's really important to remember when you're adding and subtracting decimals is to consider the place value. Remember that here is my decimal point. To the left of the decimal point, I have my whole numbers, ones, tens, hundreds. To the right of my decimal point, I have tenths, hundredths, thousands. Notice that to the right, they all end in THS. Thinking about that, let's try solving some problems. Monday in Westwood, it snowed 14 and 87/100 inches. On Tuesday, it snowed another 3 and 6/10 inches. And the problem says, how many total inches of snow did Westwood get during those 2 days? Now, because it's asking me the total inches of snow, this is making me think of an addition problem. I'm going to be adding 14 and 87/100 plus 3 and 6/10 to find the total number of inches. First thing I want to do is estimate so that I can think about what a reasonable answer would be. 14 and 87/100 is close to 15, and 3 and 6/10 is actually close to 3 and 5/10, which is 3.5. So I'm thinking that my answer is going to be near 18.5. Now I'm going to actually solve the problem. And remember, I really want to consider my place value. So I'm going to start with 14 and 87/100. Now when I line up 3 and 6/10, I want to remember that the 3 is in the ones place and the 6 is in the tenths place. So my decimal points should actually line up. I should be able to take a straight line and draw it directly through the decimal points in my addends. And also in my answer, the decimal point should be in line as well. All of my place values should be lining up. I also want to remember that 3 and 6/10 is really the same as 3 and 60/100. Because 6/10 is the same as 60/100. So there's a 0 here that I just don't see. Now, when I'm adding my decimals together, what I'm going to do is think about how I would add whole numbers, but instead I'm just adding with decimals. 7 plus 0 is 7. 8 plus 6 is 14. 4 plus 3 is 7 plus 1 is 8, and 1 plus 0 is 1. That means that my final answer is 18 and 47/100. I want to make sure that this goes with my estimate. It does, it's close. So that means that my final answer is 18 and 47/100 inches. The Westwood swim team finished the 4x50 relay in 94 and 655,000 seconds. The Needham team finished the relay in 96 and 38/100 seconds. And the question says, by how many seconds did Westwood win? Okay, so because it's asking me by how many seconds, this is a subtraction problem. And since Needham had the slower time, it's going to be 96 and 38/100 minus 94 and 655 thousandths. Now, I want to think about estimating. 96 and 38/100 is close to 96. 94 and 655 thousandths is close to 94.5. So if I was to subtract 96 minus 94.5, that would be about 1.5. So that's going to be my estimate. Now I'm going to actually solve, and I do want to, again, think about the place value of my numbers. So 96 and 38/100. Now remember, my decimal points should line up. So 94 and 655 thousandths. I want to make sure that my place values are lined up. So as you can see, I have my tens, my ones, my tenths, my hundredths, and my thousandths. And even though 96 and 38/100 doesn't have a thousandths place, there really is a 0 here. because 96 and 38 hundredths would really be the same as 96 and 380 thousandths if I were to shade that on a grid. And also you can see that my place values are lining up because my decimal points are lining up. Now I'm going to subtract just like I would with whole numbers. So I'm going to use the algorithm and get 5, 2, regroup, 13 minus 6 is 7, 5 minus 4 is 1. So my answer is 1 and 725 thousandths. This is close to my estimate and makes sense. So my final answer is going to be Westwood won by 1 and 725 thousandth seconds. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned a lot about adding and subtracting decimals.